Welcome to It Can Get Better Than This. I'm Heather Hodge,
And I'm Dr. Cindy Byler.
and today we are going to be talking about managing anger.
Yes, this is one of my favorite subjects, and especially with conflict resolution. The last two episodes have been about conflict resolution and how to have healthier conflict rather than just fights. And this is an important aspect of conflict resolution. It's an important aspect of daily life because we all experience anger in our daily lives. But in conflict, anger can take over and turn a disagreement or a conflict. It can turn it into a, a huge brawl that it doesn't have to be. So, anger can be triggered by thoughts, feelings, and experiences. One of the main keys to managing anger is to identify the thoughts, feelings, and experiences that set you off and fuel your anger. It's it's wonderful if you can do this while you're in the conflict and you're having the argument or resolving the conflict, I should say. But most of us can't do that, especially when we first get started. So a lot of times we have to assess what happened afterwards. So the first thing is to think about your thoughts and what thoughts were going through your mind as the anger started creeping up. And if you can think about that as the anger is starting to rise, you can feel it in your body. You can feel anger going up. Your heart starts bumping. You just feel different. You can
hmm
kind of feel the adrenaline going up. So you want to start thinking, okay, what am I thinking right now? Or if it's after, what was I thinking as the anger was escalating within me?
This is also where it's important to identify your triggers. Um, we did an episode on this season. I think it's episode 2, coping mechanisms.
Season 2, episode 2. Yes.
But it's important to figure out if there are things underlying, whether they're environmental or psychological, that are causing those triggers to
Mm-hmm.
set you off. I'm particularly prone to anger, and I was diagnosed with PTSD a few years ago, or several years ago now, and anger was my specialty, as they
That's my
say.
specialty.
And one of the things that I've had to work really hard at is looking at, there's physical things that I can catch. Oh, I'm angry, and
Hmm.
like if you feel hot, you feel tension or a headache, you feel like your tension in your jaw and your teeth.
Yes. Hmm.
Your ears specifically can feel hot. Your whole body feels hot. Noticing little things like that, and then looking at things that can help physically, even like, okay, um, have I had enough water today? Am I
Right.
hydrated?
Are you hangry? That's a real thing.
Yes.
Like, make sure that you've eaten enough
Right.
and you're hydrated enough because those things can set off triggers in your body.
Another thing that triggers a lot of people are like fluorescent lights.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, like Walmart and Sam's Club.
that's why a lot of people don't like it in there. And the floor being
Yes.
reflective does not help.
No,
But
no.
and honestly, I think I don't know about any studies on it, but I think that's why a lot of kids have more temper tantrums in
Yes.
larger
Yes.
fluorescently lit stores.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people with autism, that's why you'll see children with autism, especially, have meltdowns, or um, adults with autism can't handle places like Walmart.
Yeah. On top of the amount of people and the loud the all of it. But beyond that, you look at your psychological factors. Is there a time in my life where I have felt like this before that's making me feel defensive now, or that's making me feel like I need to punch a wall now?
Right.
Um, things like certain words being called annoying or being called too much, or um, being called a wimp, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Sometimes some of those words can really trigger us,
Yes.
and the immediate thing is that you want to do is go on the defense, and it raises your anger, your heartbeat,
Hmm.
or heart rate, and everything.
Right.
But yeah, I strongly recommend going back to season 2, episode 2, the coping mechanisms episode, to help with some of those.
Right. And don't tell them anymore so that they go back and watch it and like and subscribe.
Okay, no more spoilers. No more spoilers.
Okay. So our thoughts go hand in hand with our feelings
Yeah.
because we're so interconnected. So you sent me this meme a while ago about the iceberg.
Yeah, so when I was in therapy for this, I my therapist gave me an infographic, blew it up real big, 8.5 by 11
Oh my
sheet of paper.
goodness.
So
Your
it was,
therapist really wanted you to get this.
yeah, I think so. It, it was an iceberg, and there was a water line on the iceberg, and the tip of it said anger, and the rest of the iceberg, it had the names of different feelings,
Mhm.
whether that was, it had fear, betrayal, um there were
Grief,
grief, there were a lot of them.
sadness. Yeah.
um yeah, I wish I could remember all of them, but there were a ton of emotions, and basically what she told me is that anger is not the emotion here. Anger is a mask for the real emotion, and when
Hmm.
you can get down to the nitty-gritty part of what's hurting you, and you can really identify what the real problem is, you will handle the whole situation completely differently, because instead of wrapping it in anger and handling it generically, you're specific.
Yeah, you know exactly what's going on,
Yeah.
or it's more
Generally, not generically.
right. So that's generic.
Sorry.
Right. So you know better what's going on underneath. So it's not anger. I feel grief right now, and this makes me really sad,
Right. Or frustration.
or right, or frustration, or I feel fear, but my defense mechanism is anger.
Right.
And so if I know it's fear, I can handle it as fear rather than anger. So the anger is a mask, and it's important to get to the bottom of the feelings. And then there's our experiences. Past experiences can be a huge trigger for anger, whether it comes from childhood or adult life. A lot of times therapists and things I've seen on social media have point directly to childhood, but the more adult life you have, like the older you get, the more adult experiences you can have that can cause these experiences to bring up anger.
One of the one a big one for a lot of people is if you have had a job where you've had a really difficult person to work with,
Hmm.
or a really, really angry or demeaning boss who has put you in awkward situations or rough situations constantly. If you work somewhere where instead of having reasonable deadlines, you're constantly under the gun, it can cause you to start stressing out in other places if anything looks like that.
Right, right. Another one is that if you had a parent or spouse that expressed their anger in a certain way that was alarming,
Mhm.
then if somebody else does that, even if they're not angry, but if somebody else does that particular action, it can set off anger because, again, it's a defense mechanism.
Right.
So if you had a parent that was loud when they were angry or slammed cabinet doors or slammed doors, then if somebody else does that, then whether it's intentional or not, then that can also trigger an automatic anger response
Mhm.
because especially if it was a parent, you were helpless and vulnerable as a child.
Or even as an older kid, like a teenager,
Hmm.
you I mean, there's still not a whole lot you can do there.
Right. You just have to deal with it until you can get out. So that is one experience that I have found to be very common with adults that really have a struggle managing anger, especially during conflict, because the person's slamming doors or making loud noises or being loud because they're angry, which creates is part of conflict.
It's also it's important if you have a friend or a spouse that is going through that, be careful how you're driving as well, because
Yes.
that is a huge trigger. If you had a parent or a spouse that every time they were mad at you, they threatened to kick you out of the car, or they drove crazy,
Hmm.
or
That's a
slammed on
huge
the
trigger.
brakes, any little shift in the car can make you feel terrified
Right.
for your life. So, it's also important that if you do this when you're angry, you recognize it, because you have other people in the car, you have other people on the road, to not allow yourself to drive when you're angry like
Right.
that.
What what you're experiencing in that anger is a feeling of turning the helplessness that you're feeling into power.
Yeah. Oh.
And so when you're driving the car fast, you've got control over everybody in the car, and
And
you can
everybody on the
definitely
road at that point,
right,
everyone
you
near
could but
you.
you can make the person in the car that you're having the conflict with, that you're angry with, stop talking because they want to live, and they want, if the children or other people in the car. So you're doing that for power.
Wow.
Same with
Mm.
slamming doors and stuff. It's a it's an anger response, but you're expressing your power and dominance over the situation. And yeah, you can make people stop, but you're not building relationship.
Right.
And you're building unhealthy coping mechanisms and unhealthy conflict resolution skills within your children, or your parent, or your spouse, or whoever you're living with.
Mm.
Another thing that you experiences that cause us to feel angry is when we feel helpless, especially when you were helpless, when you felt helpless when you were younger and you were vulnerable. One situation that has come up repeatedly for me in coaching sessions is that people that had a parent that was constantly ill while they were growing up,
Or a grandparent.
or a
Yeah.
grandparent that was close to them, like lived with them, or l- geographically lived close to them, and they had to help take care of them.
Or a sibling even. Yeah.
hmm
Oh, that would be rough.
So if you have a child or spouse or whoever you're living with that you have to help when they're sick, and you feel angry, or you might be feeling helpless
Mm. Okay.
because you couldn't help them at that point. So that's another one to recognize. Um, and those experiences, as with any anger, can send you into fight, flight,
Freeze or fawn.
freeze, or fawn mode. Like they just keep adding the F's, and I can't keep up with it. um, and like you said before, certain words or phrases can trigger anger.
Yeah. Yeah. Annoying, or that's a common one that I see on TikTok all the time is
hmm
like that or too much. Like
Yeah,
being a
you're too
kid
much.
told you're
Yes,
too much.
yes. So those are some experiences. There's many other experiences, but those are some of the experiences that can set off anger. It really is helpful to identify what triggers the anger so that you can begin working to dismantle the buttons um, that are causing it and give you more control. This is especially important if you are in a conflict repeatedly with somebody that knows your buttons and is using them to their advantage.
Yeah.
I hate saying that, but it's true and it happens often. So you want to gain you're going to gain control over your life, yourself, the conflict, by recognizing what is setting your anger off. So it's important that if you can't do it in the moment, that you begin to do it afterwards. Start going back and like, okay, what was I thinking, or what experience or what feeling set me off for this? And really assess it and evaluate it. And if you have a therapist or a counselor that you can see, or a really great safe friend to talk through it, so that you can go back and start pinpointing it. So the next time you have the conflict, okay, you can start identifying it while you're in the situation.
And if you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to in that situation, it does really help to journal and write it out.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you do that kind of self work, you can get really into it. If you're organized and fun like that and you want to get highlighters out and
Right.
tabs out, but it really helps, even if you're typing it on your phone, to write everything out
Yeah.
because you're getting all of that processing from your brain out
Mm-hmm.
and figured out, which honestly, it's really what you're doing when you're talking through it with somebody. But
Right.
a lot of people are capable of journaling and ranting and typing it all out and then looking back through it and going, "Oh, here's where I messed up. I don't want to handle it like this next time. Maybe I could do it this way next time, or
Right.
this is what I really need to work on. This is a huge problem."
Right. Yeah, you can also use one of those transcribing apps.
You can try.
You don't like those?
They No, I talk too fast
Oh,
for them,
okay.
believe
Okay.
it or not. And if
So,
it doesn't get it right, then I get angry all
oh,
over.
oh boy.
So
Okay, maybe not so much with the transcribing
sometimes
app.
if you're able to physically write, it also
Yes.
gets your energy out
Right.
too.
That's true.
If
That's
if
true.
you've
That's
ever
good.
written something really fast or you press the pen down really hard because you're angry, you'll
I
get
don't know
your arm
how
will
I'm
hurt.
breaking. I don't know how I'm breaking all these pens. Oh my gosh. So let's talk about the brain a little bit and what happens when we're angry.
Okay.
I like this part. So it helps us understand better why it's we're getting out of control. So the goal in our brains is to keep our chemicals flowing throughout all three parts of our brain, which this is very basic 101 brain stuff. And the brain can be divided into many different parts, but I like to use the the prefrontal cortex, which is where our thinking, our logic, our reason comes. And then you have um, the limbic system, where our emotions, our memories, all a part of our memories are part of that. And then you have the R complex, which is our where our fight fl- oh
Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
mode comes in, our instincts. So when we are balanced, we can think and feel, and we're not in the fight flight mode. We can think and feel at the same time, and it balances us out. So we're not just thinking and we're not just feeling. But when we are angry or fearful, negative emotions, mo- more of the chemicals flow to our limbic system and our complex. So what
So
is
you're reactionary,
you're reactionary with all
danger
these
zone.
emotions,
Oh
right?
boy.
Woo, 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 woo. Did you see the red light
Yep.
going around and around? So that is why when we are angry, we think and we think and say things that we wouldn't normally say out loud. We
Yeah.
might mean them, but we wouldn't normally say them out loud.
And if you're like me, you want to go for that pizzazz factor, that little stinger that'll
Yeah,
really hurt,
go
and
for
you're
the
like,
jugular.
"Oh yeah, well, I've been saving this for you." That
Right,
no.
right. So
I've
what's
healed a lot, sorry.
what?
I've healed a lot. I'm a lot better than this now. I'm sorry.
So um, another episode you can reference is from season one, Stretchy Brain.
Mhm.
More about how our neural pathways work, but we're going to keep talking about the brain throughout our episodes. So if you want to gain more control, what you want to do is to help your chemicals even out again so that you can think and feel at the same time. So you can be in control of your emotions and you're not just spinning out of control.
You're going from reactive to responsive.
Right.
Mm. Okay.
So the more that your anger is fueled, the more out of control you feel your, yourself. And we want to get that under control. And so we've got to do something. And I learned this a long time ago when you guys were little and we watched one of my favorite children's shows, Blue's Clues. That was when Steve was still on. So
Oh,
that's been quite a
Steve.
while. Oh, Steve. So I meant to look it up, but I don't remember what the episode was called.
That's okay. It's on the obviously the older version of
Yes,
Blue's Clues. It's the Stop, Breathe, and Think
right.
episode
So I've used this and talked about this with um, in marriage conferences, with little kids,
with us.
with you guys, with young adults. This works for everybody. So, but it really helps to see Blue and Steve talk about it. So, what's in the episode, Blue is really angry about something. That he's really frustrated. Yeah. I think it was a puzzle or something that they couldn't get right or something. And Steve teaches him how to stop, breathe, and think. And it's so easy and it really works. So you want to stop, breathe, and think. So the first thing is stop. Don't do or say anything, just stop. So if you're in the middle of a conflict, don't you realize you're really angry, just stop a minute.
Now, does that also mean that you're stopping whatever you're doing too? Like if you're having this conflict in the kitchen and you're cooking, do you just take a step back from
You
all of it? You
you
stop everything?
you can.
Okay.
You don't have to, but you can, but you don't want to keep fueling the anger is what you don't want to do anymore.
So if what you're doing is making you frustrated, you have to stop
Right.
that too.
You're in the middle of a conflict and you oh, okay. Whoa, I'm getting out of control here. Just pause a minute and then breathe because your body is contributing to the anger by all like I talked about the brain, all the chemicals going to just two parts of the brain and not where you really needed to go at that moment. And the adrenaline is going through your body, so your whole body is feeling the anger at that point. So if you breathe and take some very deep breaths, and most of us know how to take deep breaths, you're going to help the chemicals, you're going to help your whole body calm down, the adrenaline calm down. You're going to help your the chemicals in your brain to go back to where they normally would be, where you can think and feel at the same time more equally. It's not always equal, but more equally. And then think. Make yourself stop and think to help you balance your brain chemicals. Because when you're stopping and you're thinking, then you're helping your prefrontal cortex activate again in the way that it needs to activate. Think about the areas that we just talked about. Like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What experience did I have? Just start thinking about the things that you are going through or that are fueling the anger at the moment. Whether it's something that your spouse just said, they just took a dig at you, whether they meant to or not. Okay, that just upset me. I can calm down from that because the important thing is that we want to be our best self even in conflict.
Mhm.
So we want all of the parts of our brain working, and we don't want our body fueling the anger, and now we're out of control, and we have to go back and apologize. And
Yeah, that's no fun.
that is like the most important thing here is that you want to stay above board and act the way that you want to act and be your best self so that you don't have to go back and
Yeah,
apologize.
that's embarrassing at the end. No, I'm just
And
kidding.
you want them to
It's
take the blame, and you don't want to have blame because of the way that you acted.
right. And unfortunately, even if they hurt you or upset you or make you mad, you still have to take responsibility for your own actions. So
Yes.
if you messed up while you were angry, you still have to say sorry.
Right. And we don't want to do that. So
Right.
take control of yourself before it gets to that point. And I'm being sarcastic and funny, but I mean, I do want to be my best self in every situation. And I don't want to have to go back and try to fix things during, especially during conflict, and say I'm sorry because I screwed up again.
Especially if you value the relationship.
Right. Right. Because you just put more holes into that relationship when you do that. Sometimes it's best just to remove yourself and call a timeout in the conflict so that you can get a hold of yourself and the other person stop, breathe, and think too. And so you can come back together. But you need to come back together soon. Don't leave the house. Don't leave the area. Just step away from each other for a little bit. Breathe. What am I thinking about? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And come back together and resolve it. Sometimes you just got to stop for a second. Um, so it's important to know that anger, it, it's it's not it is a tough emotion, but none of our emotions are bad emotions.
Mhm.
We need to recognize the feelings that we have and process them, deal with them, because they are not always alarm bells, but they let us know what's going on inside of us. If we're angry because we feel grief, then we're trying not to feel the grief or the sadness. And so we get angry so that we don't.
Mhm.
Often happens. So it's good to recognize, okay, my anger is grief. I need to work through that in with somebody else or in a group setting or just get a book or start processing the grief and working through it.
Right.
So it's important to know that we're not saying that any of these emotions are bad.
Yeah, they're not invalid either.
Right. And they're not to be squashed or dismissed. They're to be recognized and dealt with and processed so that you can be a more healthy individual.
Right. And even the anger can be very valid, but when it's causing you to lose any part of yourself,
Hmm.
it's not even helpful to you
Right.
anymore. And it's more just a matter of, even while I'm feeling these things, how do I work through what I'm feeling so that I can restore my peace and
Yeah.
restore um balance in my own life and who I am and with the relationships that I have around me.
Right. Right. Because relationships are important,
Mhm.
and everything that we can invest in them and be our best self for them just adds more value to the relationship and makes that even more important in our lives. And we will talk about the value of relationships in coming episodes.
Oh, yay.
So that is managing anger and a very important part of conflict resolution and daily life. So,
Thank you for joining us. We hope that you're liking and subscribing. And if you feel like you have somebody in your life that would benefit from this message, please send them a little copy of the link and send it to them.
right. Like and share, like and share.
Like and share. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and Spotify now.
And Spotify,
So
yes.
you can find us all over the place.
Okay, well, we will see you next week.
Bye.